fear through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Disciples of Ed here on the Always Next Year podcast. I'm your host, Rob, and today I am joined by Shane. How's it going, Shane?
It's going well. Just got home from the Phillies game. Gotta love traffic. Gotta love rain. Gotta love Philadelphia drivers. They are awesome.
Nice little comeback win, though. Made it all worth it, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, and I think what also enhanced the experience for me is the fact that I was sitting behind two kids, one from here, but a Dodger fan, and then his other friend, also kind of from here, not quite, but he was a Phillies fan, and you could tell the Dodgers fan was actually educated, which is good.
I still blame his parents, though.
I got to think this kid did this shit on his own. He was a dumbass in every other aspect, but he knew his baseball. The other kid knew fucking nothing. So I found a lot of enjoyment out of watching our dumbass fans taunt an actual intelligent Dodger fan, which was a rarity for me. But yeah, hell of a game. Hell of a game.
Oh my god. Typical dumbass Philly fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We are obnoxious.
Before we get into things here, I just want to talk about Just Food. You can reach them at 215-794-FOOD. Treat yourself, take it home. Great catering option if you're having a party or if you just want to grab a bite to eat. They're located at Buckingham Green at the intersection of 202 and York Road in Buckingham. That is Just Food at 215-794-FOOD. So, a new episode of Disciples of Ed. We haven't had one in a long time, and it's really been a dead off season. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Just about any NHL off season, it's definitely the quietest out of the major four sports. So we're just going to talk about Shane and I what got us into the Philadelphia Flyers, why we love this team, why we hate this team sometimes, some of our favorite memories, some of our favorite players, moments, whatnot. So, Shane, why don't you start off? What brought you into Philadelphia Flyers fandom?
So for me, I had a lot of luck. When I was a kid, I grew up in a really big neighborhood, and we had a ton of kids. And I was one of the youngest, and I always wanted to be around the older guys because they were the ones who were like playing sports. They were out on the basketball courts. They were playing football, pickup baseball, things like that. And then the coolest kid in the neighborhood, this kid, Chris, or at least what I perceived to have been the coolest kid in the neighborhood at the time.
You weren't the coolest kid?
I took over. We had a talk one day, and he said, "Listen, man, I'm going to college."
He handed over the reins?
He did. I had to think that I failed miserably, but who knows? But he started playing hockey for a local club, and he was the one who kind of gathered everyone for everything anyway. So he tried getting everyone to play, and no one wanted to, or no one's parents, I should say, want to pay all that money to play hockey. I was fortunate enough that I was able to do it, and so I would play in the street, very old school, just like Wayne's World, car, pulling off to the side, bring the net back out, skate around and stuff. So that was kind of my first experience into hockey, and then I was like, "Dad, can we watch the Flyers?" And he was like, "Holy shit, my kid is right. I have put into this world a good kid. Yes, we can watch hockey." So there it was. I was probably 95, 96 was when I would watch regularly at that point. 90s, yeah, somewhere in the
Legion of Doom era.
Yeah.
So when they were good, when they were fun to watch, which
a lot of fun,
is not the case anymore.
Right. And my dad was a huge hockey guy. So he could always tell me different stories and stuff about what it was like for him growing up and going down to the city and watching the games as well. So for me, that was kind of where it started.
I think I started around the same era. I remember being in kindergarten, and my best friend in kindergarten at the same time, a guy named Vince Vona. He still lives around the area. I haven't heard from him in a long time, but he was a big Flyers fan. He got it from his dad. His dad was a big Flyers fan. Vince was a big, hockey player. He played, bantam, pee-wee, whatever it was. And every single day he would come into school talking about what the Flyers did, the night before if they won. And granted, he's only like 6 years old, and he already knew everything about hockey.
It's a good kid.
So I kind of caught on. And, I want to say it was around the year that they went to the Cup and lost to Detroit, so 96, 97.
96, you're right.
Yeah. And the Legion of Doom, I became a huge John LeClair fan, just because he was the guy who put up 50 goals every year, the big boss in front of the net who scored all those dirty goals. First ever Flyers jersey I got was a LeClair jersey. So, I became a huge fan. Really kind of grew when it got towards, 2000, 2001, when they had those real competitive teams. That I think my first great memory as a Flyers fan was the 5 overtime game against Pittsburgh. And, of course, my parents didn't let me to stay up to watch it because I was in school. I was 9 years old, and I had to go to school the next day. So I woke up the next morning. I went to bed after probably the first overtime, right? I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, found out that Keith Primo won the game in overtime. I was ecstatic. Made my whole day, the whole rest of the week at school. I ended up beating the Penguins in that round. That was one of my best memories as a kid. Lots of good times when I was younger, up until about 04, 05, and then they had that bad year in 06, 07. Then some more good memories after that, leading up to the Stanley Cup run in 2010, and it's mostly been pretty negative since then.
Yeah, we've just been cast in mediocrity. It's just been bad.
Yeah.
But it's weird. So I feel like all Philadelphia sports are the same, and I can't tell if it's because we are, as fans, kind of conditioned this way to see these things. But it just seems like Philadelphia sports in general is just always ready to lick the tip and just never, ever go further than that. They're like, yeah, we got a team. We have a damn good team. We're a first-round exit, though, but it's a good team. And it's like just enough to make me be like, I still want to know what it's like. So I'm going to keep rooting for this team, and I'm going to keep following this team forever. Just the same way I would do with a very attractive blonde, brunette, redhead, whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as there's potential there.
That's what I'm saying. There's the intrigue.
I mean, us Flyers fans, we have to convince ourselves that they're good enough to get into the playoffs. And once they do that, we have to convince ourselves that they can upset the Penguins of the Capitals in the first round. And then if they do that, which they won't, we have to convince ourselves that they'll go on a run and somehow get like a LA Kings style run going and win a Stanley Cup, which is never going to happen because they're the Flyers. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just licking the tip all the time, and
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes is supposed to be our Olivia Munn.
Jesus Christ!
And I'm not down on the Hayes thing anymore. But like, that's kind of what this is like. That's our big splash.
Did you see the video of him and Bryce Harper
eating pizza, and no one knew who the hell he was?
Yeah, he looks exactly like Portnoy. Kevin Hayes does. Kind of like Portnoy a little bit.
I don't know. He's got long hair, though.
Longer hair, yeah, but facial features-wise, he looks pretty much just like Portnoy.
I guess.
Which is kind of strange. Because,
we should probably go do that, by the way. Just eat pizza everywhere one day.
Hey, I'm down.
Yeah.
I love pizza.
I hate pizza, but that's why I want to do it.
How do you hate pizza?
All right, hold on. I don't hate pizza. I misspoke. It's my least favorite Italian food. By far.
So you still like it?
It's fine, but I would never choose it, is my point. If I had the option of damn near anything else, I would pick.
God, you and your questionable taste in food.
Listen, man, I think of the two of us, one of us is correct in their food choices.
Yeah, and it's me.
Absolutely not. I respect your seafood.
You hate pickles, dude.
Everyone hates pickles. Let's be serious. It's like an acquired thing. If you think it's like no one actually likes drinking.
You're wrong.
Oh,
you're wrong.
It's
my God, man.
Jesus Christ.
How do you not like pizza?
I told you I don't dislike it. It's just not something I would choose.
Oh my God, man. Out of all the Italian foods, that's the one that I do like. Aside from ravioli.
Man, that's what I'm saying. That's the wrong shit. Oh my God, you're a problem. Jesus Christ. It's all the fucking same. It's red sauce, noodle of some sort, which is fucking nothing.
Jesus Christ, man.
Some cheese, which is wonderful. Cheese is the best thing on the planet.
Alright, so you're questioning me for not liking all the other Italian foods, and I'm questioning you because you don't like pizza.
Well, look, again, I like pizza. I just won't willingly choose it. If I have anything else that I can eat, I'm probably going to eat something else.
Alright, so moving on from our questionable taste in food, we can debate that later, and it's already been much debated on Twitter with Nasty on there.
What did she say?
About your pickle taste.
Oh, well, fuck that. That doesn't matter. I thought you were talking about Italian food. I was like, if your number one fan doesn't like Italian food, your number one fan sucks.
Yeah, well. Anyway, let's talk about some of our favorite players that we've had come through town during our days of watching the Flyers. Who do you got? Say, give us like a top 3, top 5 favorite players.
We'll go top 3. I love Claude Giroux. I'll start with him just because we don't have to talk too much on him. I seem to kind of always gravitate towards the underappreciated athletes, not only in Philadelphia but just in sports history in general. And he's an incredible skill set out there. I don't know that he is a type of player that could win something on his own. He obviously certainly has not done that yet. I kind of liken him to a far more talented Andre Iguodala, but the same type of thing. They may need a true, like flashy superstar on this roster with him to win. But I love and appreciate everything he does. I mean, he plays, center, wing. He kills penalties. He runs the power play. He's a fascinating player to me. So Claude Giroux for me is number 1. I love Boucher because he's had 48 stints as a Flyer.
Boosh. I love Boosh too.
Also, one of my favorite moments in Flyers history he wasn't on the ice. It was after he got hurt in the playoffs in that
2010.
run, and it was the next that next home game, and the screen-o-vision or whatever fan-o-vision scanned over him in the walkway, and he was just standing there in a suit, and he actually got emotional at the warm response that he got. That was one of the coolest things I thought.
Yeah, they did him and Lappy in the same game.
Yes,
and they both got emotional. They both started tearing up.
And like that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, look, we're a great fan base for the amount of shit that we get from outside cities and the amount of shit that we give each other. Like at the end of the day, it's stuff like that I appreciate most.
And Flyers fans are far more educated than that doofus Phillies fan that you were sitting behind today.
That kid, he was like 15.
Whatever, but, still a doofus.
I mean, he was still a moron, but he was still 15. And you could tell that he was the not cool friend of the two of them, and he was just so desperately trying to be cool with the other guy, which is hilarious to me. Funny seeing how these things work now. But let's see, a third one for me. Probably Gagne. Gagne or Desjardins. I'm not sure.
It's impossible to dislike either one of those guys.
No, you can't dislike any of these people. I'm just trying to think like who for me would be like a legitimate top 3. Like, because I know that we've done this before, and I know that every time I'm asked, I give different answers. Like the only one that
opinions change, man.
Well, it's not so much that they change. It's just like
you can't remember what you said.
Well, that's for damn sure. I can't remember anything I say ever. So it's amazing that I want to be an attorney one day, right? Jesus Christ,
man. That's going to be
5
rough.
minutes later, I'm going to contradict the shit out of myself, and someone's going to fucking jail.
It's going to be rough.
Oh, it's going to be a problem.
Shit, whenever I inevitably get in trouble with the law, remind me to not hire you. If you're
Relax, I'm going to be fine. I take very thorough notes. Or at least I would like to think that I can hire people who could do that for me. But it's crazy. Sitting here trying to diagnose down, like I feel like I can't narrow this down to 3 or 5. Like I feel like it could go forever. Who do you got?
I mean, I'll go 3 as well, and I'll go number 3, John LeClair. He was my original favorite when I first got into the team.
I didn't pick him because I knew he was your favorite.
Yeah, he was not my all-time favorite, but
who'd you pick for the all-time favorite?
I'm going Gagne with my all-time favorite.
That's fair.
He moved up on the list since the last time I did this, even though he hasn't played a single goddamn game. He's been retired the whole time. But yeah, number 3 is going to be LeClair, just because he's John fucking LeClair. He's a guy who scores goals and he gets DUIs.
That's a terrible fucking thing.
It is a terrible thing, but I don't know. I feel like I can, even though I've never gotten a DUI, let me clear that up. I kind of feel like I can relate to it a little bit. He's just a guy who drinks beer and scores goals.
You're now making a partial living driving a vehicle. And you're handing our business cards out when they inevitably listen to this.
That's why I clarified I've never had a DUI.
That just means you haven't gotten caught yet. Jesus Christ.
No, I've never even come close. I don't drive drunk.
Well done.
Yeah, but he's an American. He goes out there, he drinks beer, and he scores goals. Or at least that's what he did. And so that's why he makes the top 3 list for me.
That's funny.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 2, I am going to go with Scott Hartnell.
Okay.
He was a gritty player. Yeah, he took a lot of stupid penalties, but
couldn't skate for shit.
Couldn't skate for shit. He was always falling down. I love the fact that he turned that into a charity, the whole Hartnell down thing. That was pretty great.
That was funny.
Yeah, he scored a lot of big goals, though, for the Flyers. One of my favorite moments, actually, was a game against the Penguins in 2012. It was the year that we beat them in the playoffs, but it was a regular season game. Flyers came back from 2-0 down in the third period, tied the game. In overtime, they were just about ready to head to a shootout, and Danny Briere sets up Hartnell with a perfect pass. Hartnell fires a pass flurry with, I think, like 0.5 of a second to go in overtime. Crowd goes nuts because I think that actually, for the time being, put us ahead of the Penguins in the standings. So that was a big game. It was a Sunday afternoon NBC game as well. So, big moment right there. One of my favorite moments for Scott Hartnell, one of my favorite players. And number 1, like I said, I'm going to go Simon Gagner. Great career with the Flyers, really underappreciated. He had a couple 40-goal seasons. Unfortunately, his 40-goal season, one of them was that 06-07 year where the team was just absolutely atrocious. But one of the biggest moments in Flyers history, scoring the overtime winner to kickstart the 3-0 comeback against Boston, and then capping it off with the goal that put them up 4-3 with about 6 minutes left in regulation in Game 7, capping the 3-0 comeback in that game. So, Simon Gagner, 2 huge moments in one series, which is probably the most memorable series, at least for all of us who didn't see the Stanley Cup wins. So, that's why he is my number 1 overall favorite Flyer.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. No arguments on any of yours.
Yeah.
Maybe some reasoning behind a few, but...
yeah, everybody's going to question my reasoning for John LeClair.
Nah.
But now, my legit, realistically, my reasoning for LeClair it goes. I obviously, as a little kid, I didn't know that he was an alcoholic back then. He just scored a lot of goals, which is why I loved him.
I'm super happy, by the way, that none of us to this point in any segment that we've discussed this have gone Lindros.
Yeah, fuck Lindros.
Yeah, not a fan.
No, neither am I. The whole banging Brendan Moore's wife thing, and then
fuck, man, why did I not put Brendan Moore in that?
Yeah,
whatever. Keep going.
Getting Brendan Moore traded from the Flyers, which in the long run, having Brendan Moore would have been more beneficial than having Lindros. Coming back when they were up 3-1 against the Devils. Which speaking of, you brought up Boucher, and he made one of the most amazing saves I've ever seen in my life in that series.
Behind the back,
the sprawling behind the back.
Yeah.
On the Patrick Elias breakaway, after you can audibly hear Keith Jones yell "fuck" because he's the one who turned the puck over. Keith Jones is hilarious, by the way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, a solid top 3 for you, and my reasoning for the top 3 actually doesn't involve alcohol for John LeClair. I kind of just made that up, but it's a reason that I find him a little bit more endearing.
Yeah, you can connect to him now.
Yeah, exactly.
You can understand living in this city, being a fan of these teams, why this is necessary.
Exactly. So, how about memorable moments as a Flyer fan? Whether it be a game or whether it be a trade or a free agent acquisition or anything of that sort during your time as a fan.
I think the Pronger trade was pretty awesome. I think that team was so good already, and there was such a legitimate need that we knew, and I guess at that point I didn't fully trust the front office, and I was like, oh, we're playing, we're ready. So I was super stoked about that. So that one immediately, if we're talking trades, comes to mind immediately. If I could have been old enough to understand the Lindros one, I would have fucking punched someone in the throat. But positive things. I'm trying to think. Some of the games that I've been to. I do love the fact that we were both at the Lawtons' first goal. Nothing fucking excited. It was a terrible hockey game. They won 5-1.
Yeah, it was against Carolina.
Yeah, it was 5-1 a Saturday afternoon. But it's important to me because it was the first game that Stephanie had ever gone to. So for me, that kind of changed the household here, which was needed. If you ask me, if
you
I'm
want to
going
get her involved in the misery as well.
Well, of course. Yeah. Here's the thing: I can't walk in my own home and be miserable without being understood. Now she gets it.
Misery loves company.
That's exactly correct. So it's what I was introducing her to that. But no, on a serious note, like this is what I do. You know, I come home from my work days and it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever. I'm like, all right, I sit down, let's eat, let's whatever's on, Flyers, Sixers, Phillies, Eagles, whatever. You know, that's what I do. And she didn't know hockey. So for me, like, that was the first introduction that I could do. So that was cool. Let me think what else. Go ahead. Well, I'm going to keep thinking.
All right. Well, my first favorite memory is one of the first.
Talked about 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, actually, this one involves John LeClair. So, and I forgot to bring it up because I completely forgot about it, but I think it was the second Flyers game that I ever went to. It was an end-of-the-season game, the last regular season home game. They were playing the Penguins. And the Flyers went down 3-0. I think it was pretty cool because Lemieux and Jágr scored for the Penguins. Even though I hate the Penguins, it was cool to see them score.
Sure.
And the Flyers stormed back. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was Fedotenko and Paul Ranheim scored goals. And then John LeClair scored in the third period to tie the game up. And then LeClair scored again with about 15 seconds left in overtime to win it. That was also a Sunday afternoon. I think it was ABC at the time who had the games. And that was a game that gave the Flyers home ice in the first round, which ended up not mattering because they got blown out by Buffalo, I think it was. But that if the Penguins had won, then the Penguins would have had the 3 seed or something like that, and the Flyers ended up getting it. So that was a big game. That was a big moment for me. My second one is the one that I just mentioned about Hartnell scoring the final second of overtime, also against the Penguins. And my third favorite is the brawl against Ottawa, because we all know how much I love violence in sports.
Oh, that's true, too.
Yeah. I love violence in sports. That was basically orgasmic for me.
Basically orgasmic. We were just talking about that on the way home from the game today, actually. On the way home from the Phillies game, we were talking, not that specific instance, but how there needs to be an influx of violence again in sports, like true violence. Like, there was nothing, like, unsafe if you think about it. It was just, like, kind of unnecessary. But even though it's kind of unnecessary, I fucking love it.
Well, now that you bring that up, you're going to love one of the points that I make in my next 15 Thoughts article, which will be up later this week.
You want to tease it or you want to surprise them?
It basically has to do with the fact that I hate announcers always calling things ugly when there's a brawl that breaks out.
Oh, screw that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful. That's pretty much word for word what I said right there.
Yeah.
So that's one of my 15 thoughts. You still got to read the article to get the other 14. Which, by the way, ad spot, visit www.alwaysnexttoyourpodcast.com. Check out my 15 thoughts. Check out all the other pieces that we've had up lately. We're bringing in a whole bunch of new writers that are putting some good stuff up. Shane's had a few articles go up lately. Great stuff. Great read. Give it a shot. www.alwaysnexttoyourpodcast.com.
And if you want to write, by all means, continue to. You guys can reach out to me. It's at Shane_Meade or the podcast at AMY Podcast. I was going to save this for another segment, but I feel like I'm just going to say it in every segment. Women are just constantly being, whatever the hell my tweet was today. Women are always thrown under the bus if they like sports. They're always like, all right, fine. Who was the first baseman in 1961 in the third inning for only the third pitch of this at bat? Like, get the fuck out of here. But here's the thing. We do that to everyone that we think is an idiot. It's not just women. It's literally everyone. And if you are a good sports fan and you are knowledgeable, women or otherwise, whatever you are, and you want to write, you want to have a podcast, by all means, reach out. Let us know. I believe in you. So does Rob. So does AMYP. You want your shit out there, we'll put it out there.
It's like that Uncle Sam advertisement, we want you, or whatever it is.
Yeah. For the Army, right?
Yeah, I think so, yep. Anyway.
There you go. I'll just put that on. Just point at people. We'll take a picture of it.
Exactly.
Oh,
that'll work.
Jesus.
Anyway, and my third favorite, that brawl against Ottawa, that was one of the most fun things to watch. And it was also huge because Ottawa had been kicking our ass for a little while, and we finally beat them in that game, and we kind of dominated them. And then it ended with everybody on both teams getting into a fight, and there were like 3 people left on each bench.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So yeah, that was a fun game to watch.
I think clinching and the shootout, another one.
Oh yeah, how did I forget about that?
I don't know. I was sitting here and I'm like, I feel like almost everything I always say with Flyer segments is really obvious.
2010 had a lot of great moments that kind of get overlooked.
It was awesome.
It really was. Like that Pronger in the regular season scoring with like 2 seconds left against the Blackhawks, which unfortunately couldn't happen in the Stanley Cup Finals, but hey, at least it happened in the regular season. That was a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of good times from that regular season.
You see, good times follow winning. So maybe this year we can get a team that can win hockey games.
I know, right? And then we can finally have some good times watching them.
That's correct. And our podcast will be significantly more positive, I think. Like, who knows? I don't know. I haven't been here in like a month and a half. I've produced your shows, but I haven't actually been on them, so.
Yeah, well, the thing about having a bad hockey team is it gives us a lot to rant about, so we can be entertaining with how, negative and derogatory we are towards the team, especially Steve, because, he's completely unhinged.
Steve's great.
Yeah, Steve's awesome for the show.
Yeah, he is. He is one of my favorite co-hosts to ever have on for anything.
Nah, he's good. He's real good. So I'm thinking maybe if they start winning, it might just be positivity overload. Yeah.
Well, no. We still are Philadelphia. Let's be serious. Even when we're winning, we have shit to bitch about.
Yeah.
It just isn't the, dominant tone of something, which can be exhausting, coming from someone who is deep in Philly's Twitter.
It's like the Phillies game the other night when they won. Bryce Harper hit the walk-off base hit, and I had nothing but negative thoughts about that game.
See? That's what happens. This is Philadelphia.
Yep.
So even if the Flyers are dominant this year, which I'm not saying they will be.
They won't.
But even if they were to be, we would still find things to bitch about.
Yeah, so typical life of a Philadelphia Flyers fan. All right, so let's talk about some things that you're hoping to see from this team in the future, aside from the obvious, which is winning. What are some things that you want to see from the team, in the immediate future, as in this upcoming season, within the course of the next few seasons?
So this year, wow, man, there is so much. I'm trying to sit here and think. All right, it's kind of the same for both. So, one, I want to see how Carter Hart's sophomore season is. He's obviously going to get the lion's share of the work. Bringing back Elliott is what it is. I hope that he gets somewhere in that like 50 to 65-ish starts. I would not want him to go 65, but
I think 60 is a nice round number.
60 is like right about there. 55, 60 for me is where I'd like him to be. But it's been a really long time since we've been able to be really thoroughly excited about a goaltending prospect. So
not in my lifetime.
My immediate thing is certainly Carter Hart. You're just not going to win hockey games without a good goaltender. And then my extended thing is I'm super excited about Felix Sandstrom in that. I'm also super excited about Ustamenko. Like we have a lot of goaltending prospects right now. We're very, very good. And that to me is something that we, like I said, I always kind of liken it to the Hextall Garth Snow. Like, not saying Garth Snow was phenomenal. He wasn't, but he was more serviceable than what our normal goaltending tandem is. So that to me is something to look forward to. Is a goaltender who can truly steal you a game.
I'm in the same boat with Carter Hart. Obviously, he's the biggest thing to look forward to this season. I'm in the same thought process of 55 to 60, hopefully. I think that if he starts 60 games, he should play well enough to at least get the team into the playoffs. It's going to be the same story as it's been in recent years, get in as a low seed and get knocked out in the first round. But it's
I don't
progress.
know. I actually think that the Flyers could be sneaky good this year.
I'm holding out optimism for that, but I don't want to commit to that thought just yet. I still think they're a first round exit, but 2 years ago I think they had 100 points or like 98 or something like that. So maybe they're not too far off. I still think they're a first round exit this year. But my big thing to watch, like I said, is Carter Hart. Some of the other things I want to take a look at, I want to look at how the prospects do. Well, first off, I want to look at how Nolan Patrick does. He's no longer a prospect. He's up with the team, obviously. So I want to see him have a breakout year. I want to see him come out and score 30 goals this year.
How much do you think it'll impact him being able to take that third line center as opposed to the second line right now?
It'll take a lot of pressure off of him, that's for sure.
And theoretically, once that last wing spot is solidified, his line mates will be his line mates. I think that's pretty important.
And being on that third line, he's not going to be going against the top defensive pairing as often as he was.
No, honestly, I think the third line's the perfect line for any young player to be groomed into what they're supposed to be. I feel like to make a baseball analogy, I feel like the fourth line is like AAA. It's like a bunch of guys who you're kind of good enough to be here, and you're going to serve one purpose, and that's it. And like that's kind of your fourth line. But your third line, I always feel like is just like it's filled with guys who for the most part, are, if they're young anyway, if they're vets, it is what it is. But if they're young, that you're banking on these guys being a top six at some point. And for Nolan Patrick, I genuinely still believe that at some point there's a top line center in him.
Yeah, I could see it. I think he's definitely got the skill set to do it. A, he just needs to stay healthy. B, he needs to stop putting himself in the way of these big hits. Learn how to be a little bit more elusive out there and avoid those hits as opposed to just taking them. And C, I think that he needs some stability. He needs, like you said, having the same line mates on a consistent basis because that'll help him a lot. And yeah, I'm in the same boat that he gets put on the third line. He's not facing the top defensive pairing nearly as often, if at all. That gives him a chance to go out there and prove his worth, and I think that he could pour in 30 goals this year. He definitely has the talent to do it. I don't know, maybe 20, 25. I think he has the potential to do 30. It remains to be seen, but I'm excited for him this year.
Yeah, for all of the prospects, and then for some of the guys who have now just kind of exited out of that prospect talk, him, the TK, and things like that. There are certain areas of each of those games that I want to see improved. Obviously, for Konechny, it is finding any fucking way to hit the inside of the post, as opposed to just dead on square. I'm going to hit a post right now. He's a guy who I think I don't want to say very easily, but I think 30 shouldn't be like some outrageous goal. I feel as though 30 is attainable for him.
It definitely is. He's had a couple of years of 25?
Something like that.
He's definitely, and if you factor in all the posts that he's hit, if he gets 5 of those posts to go in.
And who's to know, too, because the way he started last year, he hit a ton of posts early and wasn't scoring. If one of those goes, maybe his shot fall, is not like a basketball term, but like shot falls. If you're missing 15 shots in a row and you finally hit that 1 3-point shot to go, if you're JJ Redick, suddenly you find yourself in a rhythm. That could be the same for Konechny and for guys who struggle like that. So I am certainly interested to see what he can do, certainly interested to see what Patrick can do. And then on the defensive side, dude, I'm super excited for the youth to be in positions that make sense right now. I don't think either of our offseason acquisitions are sexy. I don't think anybody would think that, but I think that in theory, what they bring and what they allow is for the necessary pieces to fall into the necessary places. Provorov is going to have a legit, actual top pair partner, and that's huge. We saw the kind of year that Provorov had last year. I would like to see 2 years ago Provorov again. I would like to see better than that. Even now, that's going to be his fourth year in the league, fourth year.
Fourth year.
You're Myers falling into a spot, Ghost falling into a spot, and then obviously Sanheim right now is probably to me the most. I think has the most upside overall, both offensively and defensively as a defenseman, and I could not be more excited to see how this all works out for this defense now.
I'll disagree there. I think that Provorov still has the most upside on both ends. But Travis Sanheim showed me a lot last year.
He's good, man.
He was really encouraging to watch last year.
Yeah.
He was fun. He was legit fun to watch when he was out on the ice, especially when he went during that stretch where he scored goals, and I think it was 5 out of 10 games or something like that. Yeah, he was playing some really good hockey down the stretch for them, so he's going to be exciting to watch this year. Another thing that I want to pay attention to is some of the prospects that they still have down in the minors, guys like Morgan Frost, guys like Joel Farabee, even their newest draft picks, Cam York, Bobby Brink. I'm really excited for Bobby Brink. I think he's going to be a great hockey player. Cam York, I think, is going to be a real solid defenseman. But I've heard nothing but good things about Farabee, and then we've all been talking about Morgan Frost really ever since we acquired him. So those 4 guys, a lot of excitement for them. I'm really
not going to talk Rubstov, not going to talk Knack.
I know you love Knack. I just
use that lightly, man. I don't love the guy. Damn, I hope he's our third line wing.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's a nice player, but the upside not quite as high as the other four. Same goes for Rubtsov. But yeah, those four in particular, I want to see what they do this year as far as their development goes. I would not be surprised if Morgan Frost gets a cup of coffee with the team at some point.
No, neither would I. I do think Rubtsov is kind of... He fell... I want to say this. He fell off loudly. Like, people all of a sudden were just like, I'm off on Rubtsov.
Well, his injury slowed him down a lot.
The shoulder injury last year, obviously. But there, even to that point, like, he really just hadn't caught on in the way that we expected. Like, when we drafted him, all the talk was, he's a strong, fast kid who is offensively gifted and is eventually going to take over that top line center for Closure Room. That was the talk and expectation. Now, is that realistic? Probably not. And I think it's tough to sit there and say to look at an 18-year-old kid who isn't a top 1 or 2 pick and say, I can see it now, you're a top line player. I think you get to 5, 6, 7 and beyond in that first round, you're like, we hope. And I think that Philadelphia misconstrued we hope to he is our future top line center. And then he just fell off so hard. And I feel as though now he's beginning to, or he has the ability to kind of quietly insert himself back into the conversation. Now that the expectations are almost gone because of the injuries, not unlike Samuel Morin, and I think Rubtsov's going to have a hell of a career, or at least a serviceable career, whereas I don't know yet about Morin. But I think that he's going to be able to quietly sit here and have a really nice year of contributions, both in Lehigh and up with the big team this year.
Yeah, if he does that, then obviously that creates a good problem to have, where you kind of have a little bit of a logjam, but it's a talented logjam, and you might have a decision to make. One guy you might want to move on from in a trade or something like that.
Yeah, but in a perfect world, man. I mean, some of these guys come up and make a lot of loud noise quick, and it makes some of these other high-dollar guys expendable sooner than we anticipated.
Absolutely. It might help usher out Jake's huge contract at some point.
Still love Jake Voracek.
I like him too, but yeah, the contract is something they can part ways with. But yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see what the prospects do this year. Definitely a good reason for us to go out there and hit up some Lehigh Valley Phantoms games.
Oh, yeah.
Catch some of that action. Get
our own credentialed down there again. My bad.
Exactly.
I keep fucking forgetting. I don't know how I forget to do this shit. It's what our job is.
I know, right? Come on, man. I've been forgetting to get us credentialed for the Flyers too. So
yeah,
same boat. But
ridiculous.
Yeah, we're going to go down there, or should I say go up to Lehigh, get our own scouting reports to the guys. That'll be fun to do. Got any more thoughts on the Flyers before we close this one out here?
The biggest thing for me is the fact that Connor has broken me. My normal, like, I don't want to say pessimistic, but like, I would like to say I'm realistic in saying this was not to steal a Klentak thing. This was not an objectively great offseason for the Flyers. But
they did well in the draft.
They did do well in the draft. Yeah, it was a nice draft. I probably B minus from me, but tackled a lot of really needs, and they didn't go sexy, like we anticipated. And
Caulfield,
and they went really, really smart, and I appreciate that. So, and they stuck with the goaltender thing, and they still drafted a goaltender again, which they've done every year since the Hextall era. So. So I think Connor kind of screwed me up, man, and I think that I'm a little more positive than I normally would be after an off season such as this one. When you sit there and you see the rest of the Metro improve by acquiring those sexy names, making splashier moves, and then we get Kevin Hayes, but I'm not even like cautiously optimistic. I'm feeling good. It could also be because of the fucking Phillies they hurt, man. The Phillies are a painful fucking team to watch. It is almost not fun, and that is such an issue. And that makes me miss the Flyers hockey. It makes me miss Eagles football like that much more. It makes me miss Sixers basketball. So, but I think that you're going to find a lot of real depth. I do genuinely believe that our top line is going to be a legitimate top line. I think they're going to be very, very good. But then that second, third, and fourth line, I almost think they're going to end up being interchangeable. Definitely the second and third line. I think that if Nolan Patrick takes the step that you and I were talking about, our second and third line are basically just 2 and 2A. And I think that's great. And then I think that our fourth line serves so much purpose and so much defensive ability that it brings that much more confidence to me at different points, different parts of the game. And it's a balance that I haven't really seen from our forwards group in a long time. And that much I'm excited for. And again, like I mentioned with the defenseman, while I am not overly excited about Niskanen himself, I'm not overly excited about fucking blanking on his name.
Justin Braun,
thank you.
I hate that trade.
I hate the trade because we sent over an additional draft pick we didn't need to, but I do take a look at each of those things. While I don't like either player in their own right, I appreciate what they bring in terms of stability to this roster. And then more so than anything, man, Hextall's out of the office. The front office is completely different with Fletcher there. And now the entire coach's room is different. We've banished our puck to the face boy up in the box. He has nothing to do with the game right now, at least in-game decision-making. I'm really excited for Alain Vigneault, which I wasn't at the time of the hire. I'm excited for Mike Yeo, who was not at all excited to hear his name in Philadelphia ever. But I'm excited to see what he can do. And then obviously Michel Therrien, if he can not, make players hate hockey. I'm excited to see what he can do. So there's so much change moving away from this old school Philadelphia style of hockey that we've been stuck in the past and making ourselves relevant again in today's style of hockey. It's super important. The Phillies fucked it all up with Ruben Amaro Jr. They sat there and thought that they can still play old baseball and develop players the old way, and we're seeing it not work. And it's fucking maddening. The Flyers right now are finally adapting to what hockey is, and they're changing everything out.
Is Ruben Amaro still coaching third base up in Boston?
He was coaching first base when he was coaching there, wasn't he?
I forget. It was one of the bases.
Who knows, man?
That's hilarious how he went from a GM to a base coach.
Dude, it's weird, right? Like, I don't know how. Like, could you imagine? I don't know the roster at the point that he was there. Like, I can't remember shit. But wouldn't it be fucking weird if he was your boss who sent your ass to Boston, and now he's sitting there, just like back, get more. Like, get the hell out of here.
That's hilarious.
Super strange. But yeah, that's basically my final thought, is the fact that Connor has incepted me, man, and I'm feeling good about Flyers hockey this year. Not great, but I'm feeling good.
You see, I'm feeling more positive about it now than I was, obviously at points last season. I am intrigued by the new coaching staff. I think it's great that they went outside the organization for the head coach and the assistant positions, and they brought in 2 former head coaches for the assistant positions. And you have
also think that's good.
A head coach he doesn't have any Stanley Cups, but he's got a great track record with Vancouver and the Rangers in Alain Vigneault. A lot of experience there. Michel Therrien, I think he was the head coach of the Penguins when they went to the Stanley Cup and lost to Detroit, and then he got fired the next year when they won with Dan Bylsma. Mike Yeo brought the Wild to the playoffs a few times. He's had a nice run as a head coach in the NHL as well. So a lot of experience there, and I think that with that, they're going to bring a whole new philosophy. It's not going to be Dave Haxtell's blank stare, boring, dump and chase kind of hockey. It's going to be different.
Real emotion.
Yeah.
Which is huge. All we want as fans is to be able to not be insulted by our managers and to be able to connect with them, right?
And if you don't get real emotion from Vigneault, which you will, you're going to get it from Michel Therrien.
Oh,
because he's an asshole.
He is, and I love him. For that,
he's an asshole. Which is why he'll fit in great here. But yeah, because of the coaching change in general, that's reason enough to have more intrigue in this team this year, more interest in the team. And yes, I do think there obviously is more talent. Like I said, I don't like the Justin Braun trade, and he's been trending downward in some of the advanced statistics. He's actually, I forget the exact advanced statistics, and I'm not really a big analytics guy, but he was ranked as one of the worst defensive defensemen in the NHL last year. But, new situation here in Philadelphia, new pairing, obviously. Maybe that'll revitalize him. Maybe that'll get him back to what he was 3-4 years ago. Remains to be seen. But the roster changes, definitely more talent there. The coaching changes, way more talent there, way more talent coaching-wise. I'm kind of excited for it. So, it's going to be a fun season. I think it'll be... Like I said, I don't know if they get out of the first round of the playoffs. I'm still reluctant to predict that, but they're going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, man, if nothing else, there is so much change about the philosophy that's going to be driving this. You have to be excited about that. Like, change is scary. Let's not pretend like it isn't. Like, we are all genuinely going into this season saying, well, this is the style of play that Michel Therrien is known for. This is what Mike Yeo is known for, and this is what Elaine Vigneault is known for. And these are the skill sets that our players had. Now, how can they mesh 4 different philosophies together right now to find one thing that's going to work for them? So there's going to be some curve to expect, but man, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It'll be a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we close this thing out, I want to give another shout out to Just Food. You can find them at 215-794-FOOD. Treat yourself, take it home. Having a party, want it catered? Go to Just Food. They got great options there, great selection, pretty much anything you want. They're located at Buckingham Green, off of 202 and York Road in Buckingham. Once again, that's Just Food, 215-794-FOOD. And before we sign off, you can find us on Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can find myself at radio_Rob. And Shane, where can we find you?
You can find me at Shane_Meade.
And you can find the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on Spreaker. I feel like I'm missing a few.
All of them. We're on all the
Pretty
things.
much anywhere where you can find a podcast, we're on
all
there.
the things, all the places.
You can also find us on the internet at www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. Like I said, a whole bunch of new writers coming on. A lot of new pieces coming out. Shane, you've had a few recently. I've had a few recently. Give it a read. It's great stuff. Go on iTunes. Give us a review. Give us a rating. I think we're still at the point where the next person who gives us a review gets a signed photo of yours truly.
We did get the next review, but we got a next rating. We didn't get a next review. That's what sucks.
The review is what matters for that picture.
And you got to put who the hell you are.
Yeah.
So I know where I'm sending this picture.
Exactly. We have this picture waiting here in the studio.
Honestly, it's weird.
I just need to sign it, and we need to send it off.
Yeah, it's every time we record, it's directly next to our soundboard here.
Yeah, so please, just give us that next review, because I'm tired of looking at this picture. We need to get rid of it. So, anyway, that is it for this episode of the Disciples of Ed. Thank you for listening here on the Always Next Year podcast.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me call shin all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.